Peace, brothers and sisters in humanity. Today I came with another hadith, as because I'm being told you have to believe in hadith, okay? And so I have to come and see what's in the hadith. I already know, but I'm just, just follow the hadith. Let's see what's in the hadith. Today is about 3 hadiths from Abu Hurayra, and Abu Hurayra is lived with the Prophet for about 4 years, but most of his hadiths are sahih, which is like, sahih. And he's one of the closest companions to the Prophet, and that's his hadith. Oh, I love this background music. I really do.
Abu Hurayra, he was wearing 2 garments from linen. He took one of the garments and he wiped his nose with it. And when he did that, the memories hit him. And he said, Bakhin, Bakhin. Bakhin, Bakhin is like, whoa, like, man, you made it. Almost like that kind of phrase. He's saying like, Abu Hurayra is wiping his nose with linen. And then he mentions what his situation was like before. Abu Hurayra used to be from Ahl al-Suffah. Ahl al-Suffah were the poor in Medina who didn't have any family, didn't have a business or a job or land to raise crops and whatnot. Ahl al-Suffah, they lived in the back of the masjid. And so he says that there would be periods in my life when I would walk between the minbar of the Prophet ﷺ and the room of Aisha radiallahu anha, and I would be so hungry that I would literally fall down and pass out. And people...
Okay, let's listen to this bit.
Walk by me, see me on the floor lying down, and they would put their foot on my neck thinking that I was crazy. He says, I wasn't crazy. All that led me to that point was extreme hunger.
So he lived next to the mosque with his people, now the poor people, the students, the people who don't have no homes and all that. Yeah, they were poor. So they're poor, but they live next to the masjid. Okay, which is the Prophet is not far from them. Okay, but they were starving. In a Medina, this is not wartime or anything. In a Medina, that means the Prophet and his companions lived there peacefully. They done business. They done, I don't know. They worked. They lived a normal life. Okay, because they were in peace. But there's people that are starving next to the Prophet. The Prophet must be starving as well.
I'm wearing 2 cloth garments. In another narration, also in Bukhari, Abu Hurayra tells us a story. He says that I used to lie down and put my stomach against something on the ground to apply pressure to my stomach. And he says I used to tie a rock to my stomach tightly to put pressure on my empty stomach to relieve the pain of hunger. And he says in one time...
That's how poor they were. That's how he hasn't eaten for 3 days. In the hadith it says, yeah.
So hungry that I just sat in the road and I waited for people to pass by. And he says Abu Bakr passed by. So I asked him about the tafsir of an ayah in the Book of Allah. And he says, I didn't really have a question about the ayah. My hope was, when I asked Abu Bakr this question, he would say, come over, let's have some chai, some crackers, some dates, whatever, and we'll talk about the ayah. So he was hoping he would get an invitation to the house of Abu Bakr. But he says Abu Bakr didn't get the hint. He didn't say if he answered the question or not, but he says he just kept going and he didn't invite me over. And so he says, so I waited. And then he says, ثُمَّ مَرَّ عُمَرَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. I asked him about an ayah in the Book of Allah. I only asked him that so that he could invite me to his house. And
he only asked him that because he was hungry. He's not interested in a surah, which is in a verse of the Quran. So isn't that playing a trick? Isn't that lying in a way? He could have just, if he was that kind of a believer, he would just ask for something to eat. Simple, man. People would have fed him. Didn't have to go all through this story. This story is just worthless. It just makes no sense. But no, that's not here. Wait, man. Wait, man. A miracle is coming.
And he says, he also passed by and he didn't invite me over. And then he says, ثُمَّ مَرَّ أَبُو الْقَاسِمُ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. And then Abu al-Qasim, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he passed by. And when he saw Abu Hurayra, he says, فَتَبَسَّمَ حِينَ رَآنِي. Right when he saw Abu Hurayra, the Prophet smiled. Abu Hurayra says that, and right away he knew what was going on, what I was thinking about, and what you could see in my face of hunger. So he says, Ya Abu Hurayra.
So he says, like, his face, he looked hungry in his face, so anyone can see that. But no, they were stepping on his neck to see if he was crazy. Why would you step on someone's neck to find out if he's crazy? You stay away from crazy people, wouldn't it? It's just funny. How came up with that? Oh, that's not it. Wait, this is nothing.
He says, Labbaika ya Rasulullah. Here I am, a messenger of Allah. He says, Ilhaq, come with me. So he says, so I followed him and we went to his house. So the messenger of Allah goes home and he realizes Abu Hurayra is hungry. And so he asks, do we have anything at home? And he is told that there is a cup of milk. So Abu Hurayra was like, okay, alhamdulillah, the Prophet knows what's going on. I'm going to get my meal for the day. But then
First of all, he didn't say he was thirsty. He said he was hungry. So milk ain't going to do nothing, Abu Hurayra, I'm afraid. And the Prophet, he was his businessman, he didn't have nothing to eat. He only had in his house a cup of milk. Listening to that, yeah?
He tells Abu Hurayra, go to Ahl al-Sufa and call all of them over. We're going to have a big party, inshallah. Now, Abu Hurayra is narrating the hadith himself, and he's being completely honest here, right? He says, Fasa'ani that, like that disappointed me. And he's saying to himself, how can one cup of milk be sufficient for all the Ahl al-Sufa, right? And he says, I have more rights to have this milk. I'm here. I'm with the Prophet.
So, listen to this, yeah? He said he has all the right to have the milk first. You understand that? That's one of the closest companions to the Prophet Muhammad. And we read in all these books, most of the hadiths are from this guy. It's called Abu Hurayra. But he just confused himself and everyone else because the stories just contradicts each other. One minute he's almost a prophet. A second minute he's selfish. It just confuses the stories. All the hadiths contradicts each other. You understand? And you're gonna hear why. You understand? Just carry on.
Abu Hurayra, he hasn't been a Muslim for long, but he already knows some rules. The one who is inviting is going to be the one who is serving, not eating first. So this small amount of milk, not only do I have to invite them, I am going to be the one who will be serving them. So what will be remaining for myself? But he says, never will I contradict the command of Allah or the command of the Messenger of Allah, even if it appears to be at my own loss. If the Messenger of Allah told me to call them, I will call them. So he goes and he calls Ahl al-Sufa. As expected, the Messenger
So the Prophet only had one cup of milk, okay? And then he invited the whole town, okay? Not the whole town, but this Ahl al-Sufa, that means there's a lot of them, alright? There's a lot of people, alright? He invited them to drink from a cup of milk.
Told him to provide the milk to each person. So Abu Hurayra goes to the first man and he gives him the milk. And the narration, again, it's very interesting how Abu Hurayra is recalling the story. He says, the man would drink hatta yarwa, until he would be completely filled. And then he would give back the cup to Abu Hurayra. And Abu Hurayra would then go to the next person. And the next person would drink and drink and drink until he was filled, until finally everybody from Ahl al-Sufa drank. So the only people left to drink are...
Heard it, yeah? Everybody drank from that cup of milk. That forever cup of milk.
The Messenger of Allah and Abu Hurayra. And so the Messenger of Allah, Abu Hurayra says, فَنَظَرَ إِلَيَّ. He looks at me. فَتَبَسَّمَ. And he again smiles in my face. And he says, أَبَا هِرْ. He says, لَبَّيْكَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. He says, بَقِيتُ أَنَا وَأَنْتِ. There's only two people left. And Abu Hurayra's thinking, who's the milk for, right? So the Messenger of Allah tells Abu Hurayra, drink. And so he drank. He finished drinking and he gave it to the Prophet. The Prophet said, drink again. And he drank again. And then he says, the Prophet kept telling me to drink and drink and drink until he says, O Messenger of Allah, I swear by the one who has sent you with the truth, I have no space.
You heard that? 3 times. He drank from that cup of milk 3 times, okay?
To drink the milk. And then he gave the cup to the Prophet ﷺ, and then the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he praised Allah and he said Bismillah, and then he also drank what remained.
What do you mean drank what remained? Drank what remained. Okay, so he had the last sip. that milk, that cup of tea was forever cup of tea, infinite cup of tea, cup of tea, cup of milk, and then all of a sudden only a little bit remained. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, the next one is hilarious.
From the hadith is Abu Hurayra himself says the moment he saw me in the street, he knew in my face and what is in my heart that I am here because I'm hungry. But the Prophet took him through this whole exercise, calling others, being generous to others, teaching Abu Hurayra to give preference to others over yourself, even if you are the one who is in need. And it's a quality that Allah preserved in the Quran when He says, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. The Ansar are people who give preference to others over themselves, even if they themselves are in desperate need. And this ayah was actually revealed after an incident that Abu Hurayra himself narrated.
So it's not just Omar that brings the verses down, Abu Hurayra as well. So Allah listens to Abu Hurayra as well, yeah? So God didn't know this before Abu Hurayra.
When a man came to the Messenger of Allah and he was hungry, and the Messenger of Allah went to his house and his wife told him, we only have water. So he said, who will feed this man? One Ansari man said, I will. So he goes home and he tells his wife, do we have food? She says, all we have is something that's a small amount to feed my children. So he says, well, cook the food, turn on the light, the lantern, it was at Isha time, it was dinner time, turn on the light, and then make your kids go to sleep without feeding them. Just keep...
You heard that? Make your kids go to sleep without feeding them. So the kids are starving.
Until they fall asleep. And so she did that. And then what their plan was, they took out the food and they presented it to the guests. And then the wife intentionally, though she made it look accidentally, knocks out the lantern and the light turns out. So they're sitting now in the dark. And so the wife and the husband both are pretending to eat. And the guest feels, he senses that they're eating, but in reality they were pretending to eat because they only had enough food that would feed one adult. And they didn't say this to him, they didn't say this to the messenger.
So they've eaten in a complete darkness, you know what I'm saying? They carry on eating in total darkness. You know, who does that? Would you invite someone to turn the light off? Would you? Would you? Let's forget about the kids for now, yeah? Would you invite someone and then turn the light off? What would these people think about you, though? It's just nonsense.
They didn't say this to anybody else. The next day, when the man goes to the Messenger of Allah, the Messenger of Allah, he tells the man that Allah smiled and was impressed and laughed at what you did last night. He didn't say anything to the Messenger. This was a secret deed he did between him and...
So now, hair. I've got a problem with his hair now. Allah smiled, laughed, and he was impressed by the trick they'd done. So Allah, this God Almighty, most merciful, will laugh and smile and gets impressed by people starving their kids to feed strangers. Okay? What kind of God is this? What kind of parents are those? What, to show that you love Allah? Did Allah ask you to do that though? Did God ask you to do that? Or God asked you to start with your own kids first? So Abu Hurayra, he's going against God altogether, against the Quran altogether. And then he's saying God laughs and smiles and gets impressed by us. We impress God. We make him laugh now. We make him smile. Where did he come up with that? It's not in Allah attributes to laugh. He's not a laugher. So, does God laugh? I don't know. He just said it. I don't know. Why would God laugh? And if he laughs, we don't know how he laughs. He's not like us. There's nothing like him. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ. I mean, how can you hear something like that and then just call me names and call me kafir and call me all this crap? And you're listening to crap and you're believing in crap. You're so brainwashed, I can't help you. Because when I go to the Quran, right? See if the Prophet was poor. Okay? Let's read something. Surah Al-Duha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى. By the forenoon, by the night as it falls, your Lord never abandoned you, nor did he forget. The hereafter is far better for you than the first life. وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. And your Lord will give you enough. You will be pleased. So he wasn't poor, was he? أَلَمْ يَجِدْكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَى. Did he not find you orphaned and he gave you a home? وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًا فَهَدَى. He found you astray and guided you. وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى. He found you in financial difficulty and made you rich. فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. And now عائلا, which is, most people say is poor, but it's not poor, okay? Poor is faqir, al-fuqara wal-masakin. You can't use two different words that mean the same thing in the Quran. I told you that before. فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ, you see? وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى. He made you rich. Made you rich. Allah said he made Muhammad rich. Okay? He was never poor. He was in financial difficulty. That means he had a big family. Okay? The Prophet had a big family before. So he was in, like most people, like us in a normal life. You know what I mean? We struggle a little bit, but we're not poor. We can eat anything. We just have some difficulties. Because especially when you have a big family, it's just a normal thing. Muhammad was never poor. The Prophet Muhammad was never poor. Okay? He made him rich. So 1 cup of milk made you rich. It doesn't mean he gave you 1 cup of milk. And people say, at the beginning. No, it does not say in the Quran or anywhere, okay, that a prophet was poor. Okay, only in the hadiths that he was starving and all that. Okay, as Muslims supposed to starve on this earth. Okay. And then we have the Jannah afterwards. It's like God sent us to starve, to suffer, to struggle, okay? And then he gives us Jannah, okay? That's not a fair God, okay? You're talking about an unfair God. You know what I mean? Your God changes. And Sunnatullah la tataghayyar. The Sunnah of Allah never changes. Always the same. But your God changes. From being the most gracious to starving you. And the fact is, you starving your own selves by your beliefs. That's what you're doing. Because there's so many verses in the Quran that if we were in the right path, we would have a good life and a good hereafter. But no, with your hadith, everyone is poor. Now, he told him, فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. Therefore, you shall not forsake the orphan. وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. Nor shall you reprimand the beggar. You see? See what he told him? You're rich. You should give to the poor. There's no people starving where the Prophet was there. Okay? I promise you that. Because he had some powerful people with him. He had some rich people with him. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِثْ. You shall proclaim the blessing your Lord has bestowed upon you. I mean, that's what Allah said about the Prophet. He didn't say he was starving. He had one forever infinite cup of milk. All these Hollywood stories that you came up with. Okay? So I believe in all the Quran, right? The Prophet was never poor. He was never needy to anything. Because Allah gave him anything he needs. He said, I'll give you enough and you're going to be pleased. And he didn't, how can he make him rich and then make him poor? Why would he do that to his own Prophet? Allah tests your iman. No, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah will never ever give you more than you can take. You understand? He will not make you poor. He will not make you starve. You make your own self starve. You make your own self poor. Because you're waiting for others to do things for you. Because you believe that by doing 5 prayers a day, okay, and say Allahu Akbar, you're going to go to heaven. You understand? The Quran is based on doing, not by saying. The people, they say a lot in the Quran, they're hypocrites. Okay? The people that believe in God will do things, will invent things, will use science. They're trying to make the world a better place. Not by killing people, not by hating people, not by just by staying in a straight path. You understand that? That's what I believe is. Not like not the hadith. The hadith is it's no truth there. This is just a couple I'm coming up with. There's hundreds of them. The Prophet had one miracle, if you call it a miracle. I call it a proof. Ayah. It's the Quran. That's all I knew since I was little. In the mosque, that's all they taught us, alright? The Prophet's miracle is the Quran. And then all of a sudden, all these hadiths came through, and then he actually had miracles. He can fly, okay? He can travel through time. He can produce milk from a cup, an infinite cup. He can crack the moon. I mean, Allah never said anything about that. Because the Quraysh, which is the idol worshippers, they asked him to perform miracles. They actually asked him to perform miracles. And he said, I can't, I'm only a human. I'm going to go through that as well. So the Prophet, Allah is telling the Prophet to say, he's only human. He doesn't know the future. He doesn't know nothing except what's in the book. But you telling us through the Hadith and Abu Hurayra that it performs miracles. Who do we believe? You and disbelieve Allah's words, or believe Allah's words and disbelieve you. You're the liars. The Quran does not lie. Abu Hurayra is a liar. God doesn't lie. Simples. Peace. Can't help you if you don't understand. Use your brain.